if the input, or I think if the output does not have the one number repeating twice.
Good. You were close. You said input. Input was right. So
Okay.
you're looking at the input and you're trying to see if any numbers are repeating. Now, what is the input? Is that the X values or the Y values?
X.
Good. So look at the X values in example A. The X values are 2, 4, 3, and 4. And what do you notice?
Fours.
At the 4.
4 is repeating. I have 4 comma 2 and I have 4 comma 3. So when that happens, is it a function or not a function?
It's still.
Oh, I thought it was a function for a second because the number because it says 2, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3.
That's not what we look for. What we only want to check if any X values are repeating. And since they are repeating, I have 2 4s, then this is what?
Not a function.
Not a function.
Good. Not a function. Whereas in example B, let's take a look. I have 3, 2, 4, and 6. Do any values repeat?
No.
No.
So that's how you know you're good to go. This one is a function. So when it's just a list of points, you're just looking at if any X values are repeating. What about for answer choice C and answer choice D? What do you look out for?
If any numbers are repeating.
Or branching.
Branching, that's the key word. So where do we see branching?
In
Both
D.
16s?
In D. Well,
Okay.
we're in C, but none of them are.
Be more specific. In D, in answer choice D, which number is branching out?
The
What do you mean
14.
branching out? It's
The 14.
Oh,
Yeah.
because it has 2 arrows.
Exactly. When you see 2 arrows branching out like that, not a function.
Oh, so if it branches more than once, it's not a function.
If it branches even one time, it's not a function.
Oh, so for example, C is not a function.
Why not?
Wait. Oh, no, it is because
It is a function because it's not branching.
Because no number branches twice.
Exactly. Even though the 16 and the 2, they come together, right? The 16 and the 2 meet on the 8, but that's not the same thing as branching out. Those are coming together, not branching out. So that one's okay. So this one is a function. And then finally for E and for F, what is that test called that we always try to use? Oh shoot, sorry.
I don't know what it's called, but it's the vertical line.
That's what it's called.
Oh.
It's the vertical line test. So my vertical line test, I'm going to zoom in. All you have to do is look through your graph and see if there's any point where the graph stacks up on top of each other. So for example,
It doesn't.
Right. So for example, here I draw my vertical line and there's nothing that's stacking. It just crosses the line once. I'm going to do that again a couple of times. So I can do it in many different places. And I can just check to see if there's any place where the graph stacks up on itself. But if you check, each place I checked, I only cross one time. There's no place where it's stacking. So that means what does that mean about this one?
That
It's
it's
a
a
function.
function.
Yeah, it is a function.
Miss, do we write the graphs too?
No, for this, since it's a big graph with a lot of stuff going on, just make sure you use your eyes. You don't have to copy it. All right, and then finally, F, same thing. I'm going to check to see, even though this is, remember I said on Thursday, they're going to throw some crazy graphs at you, but the same rule still applies. So do you guys notice any point or places where the graphs stack up on top of each other?
Yes.
Yeah, right here.
Yes,
Like,
negative
and
3,
negative 3
0.
and 2.
Yeah,
Negative 3, 0,
3.
3.
So hold up, let me use my red. Okay, so at the negative 3, if I look, I have right here and right here. Those 2 points, they stack up. Where else is it stacking up?
0.
0. Exactly. Those 2 points stack up. And then I also heard
The last one is 3.
on the 3, those 2 points also stack up. So since even if it happens one single time, that's still going to be not a function.
Non-function.
Exactly. So at this point, even if you missed class on Thursday, do I have any questions on what a function looks like and what a function doesn't look like?
Well, for what I understand right now is that a function is just a not equivalized if it's a word line, but for a dysfunction it'll be straight lines but all gathered up on each other.
They just can't stack up on each other. It's not always going to be a straight line, and you'll see a couple of examples in this class today that they're not going to be a straight line, but it's just the only important thing is that it doesn't stack up on itself.
No, I understand that. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at today's topic of the day. So today we're going to be we're still looking at functions, and we're going to be evaluating functions. So now that we know what a function is, we can evaluate a function. But before we begin, I have one announcement, which is that you guys have your first test of the year next week. So next Tuesday and Wednesday, you will be testing. The test is split up into 2 parts. So part 1 is no calculator, and that's going to be on Tuesday. Part 2, you can use a calculator, and that will be on Wednesday. So remember, guys, you're still going to be at home at this point. You're not coming into school until Friday if you're choosing to go to school. So make sure that by Wednesday, you guys have your own calculators, because you cannot use your phone. You cannot use the laptop's calculator, because the testing website can tell if you open up a new page. So if you're trying to switch, it'll lock your test.
But how do you know if we're doing it on our phone or not?
Because I'm
Not saying I will, just asking.
Most likely.
Because I'm going to be, because Miss Lopez thinks ahead. Miss Lopez
Miss, I don't cheat, Miss. That's cap.
That's good. No, I'm going to be watching you guys. I'm going to have you guys with your cameras on. The only thing that the website allows you to have at the same time is Zoom. So since you'll be on Zoom, you'll have your cameras on, and I'm gonna be like, all right, everyone, show me your phone. Now show me you putting your phone behind you, and then I'll see that everyone puts their phone behind them.
Not now, Juan.
Like this, Miss?
Put it down behind you. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Miss, that's doing too much.
So that's going to be that. The test is usually, I don't know, I haven't seen the test yet because I don't make the test. The district makes the test. So I haven't seen it, but usually it's about 25 to 30 questions in total. So it's split up between the 2 days. So part 1 is usually like 12 questions. Part 2 is usually 12 questions, a little bit more.
Oh, the longest test I had this year was for my science class. It was like 36
Yeah,
questions.
you guys had that really long test at the beginning.
Yeah,
of the
that was
year,
like very long.
All right, so it's also worth 40% of your final grade, so make sure you study. And the 2 topics that are covered on the test are everything we've learned so far. So solving equations, solving inequalities, solving literal equations, and then also what we're doing right now, which is understanding and evaluating functions. Finally, the test will be taken during class because I'm going to lock it, so you can't work on it outside of period 7 and period 8. So you have to be completing it during class time. Do I have any questions on this test? It's in about a week, so we can start preparing now. Okay. And as it gets closer, I'm sure you guys will have more questions, and I'll make sure to answer anything that you have. So, you can always ask me. All right, so here we are, class. So for today, I'm going to tell you what you should write down and what you should not write down. But if you were absent on Thursday, I definitely need you to write down the definition of a function. Would anyone like to read this definition for us again?
A function is a type of relation in which there is only one output value for each input value. For every input value, there is a unique output value.
Perfect. And we kind of saw this in the bell ringer. You don't have to copy down the table or the graph or the mapping diagram, but I'm just going to review this with you guys. So on a table, what do you look for to check if it's a function?
Repeating numbers.
Good. So it should have no repeating input values. On a graph, what do you look for?
Branches.
Stacking up.
No.
Stacking up.
Good. No stacking up. On this one, they're next to each other, which is okay. If they're right next to each other, that's fine. They just can't be on top of each other. And then on a mapping diagram, what do we look for?
Branching.
Branches.
Good. No branches.
Oh, I see now, because two different numbers branch up to one other number.
Right. So on this one, no branching.
Sure.
On this one, that's not a branch because it's not like it's branching out. They're just coming together.
All this, just the only thing I can think about for this is just politics.
Well,
That's all
we're not
with
going to
these
talk about
words.
politics right now, Marco, but that's a good point. No politics. Except make sure your parents vote if they can. Okay. Any questions on what
Miss, we heard that.
any questions on what is a function? Cool. All right. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to evaluate a function. So the first thing we got to learn and understand is function notation. So y'all know how in algebra, they always try to make things look confusing as heck, but it's actually not that hard. Like that happens all the time. So this is another example of that. Basically, this is how we write a function. And the way that I say this, if I wanted to read this out loud, I would say f of x equals 3x plus 1. Again, you don't have to write this down. Actually, you know what you should write down is just this. As a matter of fact, go ahead and take 30 seconds to just write that down.
Great. The equation thingy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as you continue to copy this down, let me just explain it a little further. So basically, in math, every single math class you've taken before, usually what do parentheses mean? Just generally.
Multiplication.
Multiplication, right? Well, in function notation, this is the only time where parentheses don't mean to multiply, so we're not multiplying anything. What we're doing is we're giving a function a name. So like, my name is Miss Lopez. Each of you has your own name. Functions also have a name because they help us to differentiate one function from a different function. So basically, if this is f of x, that means the name of this function is f of x. Sometimes you might have a function that's called, instead of f, they'll use g of x. Or you might have a function that's called m of x. Or you might even have a function.
I have a technique to make it much easier.
Hold up, let me finish explaining. You might also
Okay.
have functions that don't even use the variable x. It might be called like c of t or g of q. Who knows? They can go crazy.
So any letter.
It could be any letter. As long as you remember that the letter inside of the parentheses is your input value and the answer you get is your output value. So I'll explain what that means in just a second, but whatever letter is on the inside is your input. And whatever answer you get, so let's say you get equals 4, whatever answer you get on the other side, that's your output. So let's look at some concrete examples because it always makes more sense with actual examples. So here's an example of a function. So this is f of x equals 4x minus 8. And it wants us to evaluate this function. So what that means with all of these examples is notice what they did. They replaced the x with a 3. So what that's telling me to do is that my input is 3. So I'm going to plug in a 3 everywhere that I see an x. So 4x minus 8 becomes 4 times 3 minus 8. So I'm plugging in a 3, and I'm going to get an answer, and that answer will be my output. So in order to get my answer, what should I do first? Should I do 4 times 3, or should I subtract 8?
4 times 3.
4 times 3.
4 times 3. I'm going to use my order of operations. So my order of operations say I got to multiply first. So 4 times 3 is 12. And what's 12 minus 8?
4.
4.
So 4, since that's the answer I got at the other side, that's my output. Which means that if I have a table, I could fill out this table. My x value was 3, and my y value was 4. And I could do that for any number. I could plug in any number I want and then see what I get on the other side. So for example B and example C, I want you guys to do the same exact thing. What should I be doing for example B? What should I do here?
Multiply it by 4.
Right, so I'm gonna plug it in to my rule. This is kind of like a rule, like it tells me what to do. I'm gonna plug it in. So I'm gonna write it out. 4 times 16 minus 8. And see what you get. Take 30
Just in the
seconds.
chat.
Yeah, you can send it in the chat. Good, I'm seeing a couple correct answers. If you got an answer, you can send it. Good job, guys. If I haven't responded to you, it's because you got it right. All right, so to get my output, first things first, I have to multiply because I'm following PEMDAS, right? So PEMDAS tells me to multiply first. What's 4 times 16?
56.
4 times 16.
Oh,
64.
Yeah, 64. So I have 64 minus 8. What's 64 minus 8?
56.
56. So that's how I got my answer. So my input was 16. My output was 56. Go ahead and try it for example C. What is f of 0?
Emptiness.
Plug it in and see what you get.
Miss, how did you get?
Miss.
Sakaya first, what's up?
Miss, how did you get the numbers for 16?
Because look up top, the rule tells me what to do. Oops, hold on. The rule tells me exactly what to do. I'm just following this rule. Okay, so I have 4x minus 8, and it's telling me to plug in a number. So all I'm doing is plugging that number into the rule. Notice I did the same thing for problem A and problem B. All I did is 4 times that number minus 8. Was there another question?
No. Oh, no, miss. I already got it.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of correct answers in the chat. So let me go through it. All I'm doing is plugging in 0 now. So I have 4 times 0 minus 8. And I see that pretty much everyone in here got the correct answer, which is negative 8. Negative 8, because 4 times 0 is just 0, and then 0 minus 8 gives me negative 8. So my input was 0, and my output was negative 8. Any questions so far on evaluating functions? On just plugging in? Cool. All right, so now let's take a look at this final question. So this final question's a little bit different, but you will definitely, they love asking this type of question. What it's basically saying is evaluate f of 16, evaluate f of 0, and then subtract the two numbers you get. So luckily for us, we already evaluated f of 16. What was f of 16?
56.
56.
Right, so it was 56, and then what was f of 0?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. So I'm doing 56 minus negative 8. Now, I have two negatives. What do two negatives make?
Zero.
A positive. Two negatives make a positive. If I'm subtracting a negative, that's a double negative. So this
I forgot that. I forgot how that works.
that's okay. It's the same thing as 56 plus 8, which equals what?
64.
64. Exactly. And that's my answer for that question. Now for this one, I'm not going to put it in my table because it's not just an input versus an output. This was just giving me it was a different type of problem. Any questions so far?
Yeah, miss.
Mhm.
Why did you put 56 plus 8?
All right. Would anyone else like to explain that one? I'm curious.
Because
Because
does a negative make a positive or something like that?
Something like that. Julia, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say that because they're both negative, and if you subtract both negative, it turns to addition, and then it's 56 add 8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's what I said.
that was a good way. Yeah. So when you subtract a negative, think about it. That's kind of the same thing because a negative symbol is kind of the same as a subtraction symbol, right? When you subtract a negative, it flips it around and all of a sudden you're not subtracting anymore. You're going to be adding. So because I had two negatives next to each other right here, that became a positive, a plus sign. Any other questions? Cool. Let's try another one. So this was just one type of function. Let's look at a different one. What is different here?
You have that 2 on top of the F.
Okay, what's that 2 called? What is that?
Times 2.
Word.
Exponent.
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 And what does the exponent tell you to do?
Multiply it.
by the number.
Multiply it by itself, exactly. So there's an exponent of 2, and what else do you guys notice? There's one more thing.
No variable.
Oh, the 8 and the x.
Yeah, there's 2 variables. So there's x squared, and then there's also 8x. So even though this function is a little more complicated, we're still going to do the same thing. Whatever number it's telling you to plug in as the input, you're going to put it in that function both times. So since there's 2 places for it to go, it's going to go in both of those places. So when I plug in a 3, I'm going to get negative. Don't forget that negative sign. Just copy it right down. 3 squared plus 8 times 3 plus 9.
So we're just substituting the x
Mm-hmm.
with that 3
Exactly.
or whatever number.
Exactly. Exactly like you said it. We're substituting the x with whatever number it tells you to plug in.
So we rewrite the entire thing, but just like put the number that it chose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, notice I just
Miss,
rewrote
did we write this
everything.
down?
Yes, please write this one down. Thank you for asking. I forgot to say that. All right, so now since I have a slightly more complicated function, I'm going to be very careful with my PEMDAS, with my order of operations. So what does my PEMDAS tell me to do first?
The parentheses.
Parentheses.
Okay, now be very careful because with parentheses, it's a little confusing, but basically with PEMDAS, when you see P for parentheses, that's talking about if you have something like this, like 3 plus 4 minus 2. Like if you have a bunch of stuff inside of 2 parentheses, it's telling you to do that first. But do I have anything inside of parentheses that needs to be evaluated?
No.
The 3s are inside parentheses.
They're
No,
inside, but they're all alone. So it's not telling you to multiply what's outside. It's just P is telling you to do anything that's happening inside the parentheses. But since that 3 is alone on the inside, there's nothing to do. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So we're not going to do, there's no parentheses to do. So P is done. E stands for,
Equation.
not equation,
Exponents.
exponents. There you go. Exponents. I do have exponents, 1 exponent, so I'm going to do that one first. So I have to do 3 to the power of 2. What's that?
6.
9.
9. 3 times 3. Remember, you're multiplying it by itself, so 3 times 3 is 9. And that negative symbol comes with me. That's not going away. Okay, I did exponents. Next, I have to multiply. So what should I do here?
Eight times 3.
8
Mhm.
times 3.
Good, which is 24.
24.
Now I'm almost all the way there. I'm no division, so now I need to add and subtract. So I need to add all of these up together and see what you get.
Miss, I'm bad at adding or subtracting things when they have like that minus sign.
Would it be 24? 24?
Okay, so that minus sign is called a negative, first of all. Second of all, yes, the answer is 24.
Miss, I said minus thing, I said negative.
Uh-huh. So let me go through it. So 2 ways you could do this. One way is you could notice that -9 and +9,
That's exactly how I did it.
they cancel out because they're opposites. So you could have just done it that way. If you did it the other way, you did -9 plus 24. -9 plus 24 is the same thing as 24 minus 9. What's 24 minus 9?
15.
15. It's the same thing. So you could have done it that way, and then 15 plus 9 is 24. So what was my input?
24.
24.
Careful, which one was my input?
3.
Oh, the 3. The 3.
Oh, 3.
3. 3 was my input, and then my output, that was 24. So this one's definitely a little more challenging because it takes more steps, but I want you guys to try question or problem B and problem C. And if you feel like you can do it, you can try problem D as well. But try B and C on your own. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to do that, and you can send me your answers in the chat if you get it. 5 minutes start now. So the domain is all the x values, all the possible x values, and the range is all the possible y values. And if you want another example to practice evaluating, you can see what is f of 4. All right. So I added one more question there because it's another good practice problem. Let's start with the domain. So my domain is how far to the left do I go? So what's my smallest number on the left side?
2.
2. 2, right? Is it right on the 2? Be careful.
2.5.
It's about 2.5. It's right in between the 2 and the 3. So that's my starting value. And where do I end?
9.5.
9.5. Good job. Right over here. So from left to right, my smallest amount is 2.5 and my biggest amount is 9.5. So my domain is 2.5 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 9.5. So this one's a little bit trickier because it has decimal points. It's kind of in the middle. So you just have to be very careful. My range, now I'm looking at the y-axis. So what is the lowest number that the graph touches on the y?
0.
0, yeah, it starts down at the bottom.
0.
Right there. So it starts down at the bottom, and then what's the highest it goes?
100.
100. Exactly. It goes from 0 all the way up to 100. So my range is 0 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 100. Domain is how far to the left and how far to the right. Range is how far down and how far up. So if it's a little confusing, just try and remember that. How far down and how far up. All right. And then finally, let's answer these 3 questions. So what is f of 4? What is f of 4?
60.
60?
What do we?
No, I said 16.
25?
16.
16. Okay, I hear 25. So remember, I'm going to look on my x-axis at the 4. And when I'm at 4, where's the graph?
25.
25, exactly. It's at the 25. So f of 4 equals 25. That's what you're always looking at. Now I'm going to do the opposite. When f of x is 100, what is x? So now I'm looking at my y-axis. When f of x is 100,
6.5.
I'm at about 6.5 exactly. So x equals 6.5. So it's a little tricky, but you just have to kind of get used to remembering which which axis am I looking at? The x-axis or the y-axis? All right. There are 5 minutes left. I did have one more practice problem, but we're kind of out of time. So here's the thing. We're doing all of that tomorrow. You guys have homework on this on Khan Academy, and it's already up. So at this time, if you do not know your username and password, or if you haven't joined the Khan Academy class yet, stay on Zoom so we can figure that out. If you already know how to log in, then you're good to go. It's due on Wednesday at midnight, so make sure you get it done because there were a lot of people who did not do their homework, and that was not okay.
Bye, Miss.
So make sure you're getting it done. And okay, so who's staying right now? Anyone who doesn't know Khan Academy and anyone who is having trouble with Teams, stay. Everybody else, you may go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.
Bye, Miss.
Bye, guys.
Miss.
Oh, Angel, don't leave yet. You have to finish Khan Academy. Or not Khan Academy, iReady. So go on iReady right now. It's open till 4:30 and finish up whatever you can because it's due by the end of the week. Can you do that? Okay, so who else is here? So I know Andrea, you need to figure out your teams, right?
And my Khan Academy.
And Khan Academy. Okay. And then Marco, do you need to join Khan Academy too? Because I know you haven't been here yet. Okay. So both of you, let's start with just figuring out Khan Academy. Let me share with you the class, the link. So I'm going to put the link in the chat and you'll be able to join the class right away. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm putting in the chat right now. So go ahead and click on that link. It'll take you to you'll have to create an account. And then once you create an account, you should be good to go. But make sure that you use a username and password that you're going to memorize. Because if you forget that information, I'm not going to have access to it. So you have to memorize it. And then I see Dewan, Zakaya, Wenchley. You guys need any help with something?
No.
Okay, Dewan, you can go then. You're good.
See you Wednesday.
See you tomorrow, actually.
Oh, see you Tuesday.
Good job today.
Miss, I don't, the graphs is just, I don't understand them.
Okay, do you want to do like one more problem together?